We're back. Another episode of Gritty Iron Gang. You already know what it is, man. We're getting to our Week 8 picks, but we have to recap Week 7 before we get to that. Baltimore thought they were going to be going into Week 8 with the performance of the week, but the Minnesota Vikings said, hey, not so fast. Watch this. Why don't you tell us about it?
Bro, I mean, look, all week I was saying, I don't even know what the fuck I was saying because I had it written up as a major L. I was saying 37-12 loss. I was saying, then my last prediction was 27-13 49ers. So I was just kind of like, you're just talking to myself, just like, you know what it's going to be this week. Just fucking, you just gotta ride the wave and accept it for what it is. But then, and the game started out, Kirk throws that ugly interception. I mean, I don't know if you want to put it on him or more so Addison getting the ball ripped away from him. But
I thought the pass was a little bit behind them, but
yeah,
it's probably a little 50-50.
Regardless, in real time, I was saying, why the hell are you passing it right there? Why are you passing it right there? Like, it was obviously his first look and his first read, and he just zinged it right in there.
Stared it down the whole way.
So I'm like, man, why are we doing that? What are you doing? And I look at, I look at Lexi and I'm just like, dude, Kirk is the biggest dodo brain, man. Like, just like, and then, a few plays later, then our defense forces a fumble on McCaffrey. And I'm like, oh, shit, in the red zone. And I'm like, maybe we can start something here. And then I think the next 4 or 5 drives, we come away with points. And I think after that, and usually when you get a Kirk throw like that gets picked off early or in a big moment, he crumbles a little bit.
Especially in prime time.
And he never crumbled this game.
No,
This man was lights out. It was a Kirk Cousins I've never seen in my life. I was like, where has this man been this whole time? Because, the funny thing is like, we could talk about, Trent Williams being out, Debo being out. Their defense is fully healthy. And that's a scary unit on that side of the ball. And the fact that we come away in this game and, for this offensive line to give up 0 sacks and only 6 pressures, that's saying something right there. And I've been saying since we signed him, I've been pounding the table for Dalton Risner to get in there. And that man looked very, very impressive at left guard that night. And I think with him at left guard, and then you got Darisaw at left tackle. I mean, Darisaw completely shut down Nick Bosa, and that's you don't see that.
That's a tall task.
Like, so, I mean, and then the Jordan Addison coming out party. I mean, this dude looks like a true baller, bro. Like, it's just he's not a big type receiver. I think they said he weighs 175 pounds, so he's he is a skinny little twig out there, but he's fast. He can move, and it's funny because I think there's a few plays out there where Kirk, like going back to JJ's rookie season, after a few games of him being in there as a starter, you could tell Kirk was like, okay, he knew before the play, like, I'm going to just, if it's one-on-one coverage, I'm throwing it up to him. And he got that a couple times the other night with Jordan Addison as well. So I think, it just all bodes well going forward once you get JJ back, and then you can start adding Addison in there and 2 receiver sets. And I don't know. I'm not trying to get my hopes up or anything because I know how this team is and I know how the league works. But like we said before last week, before this game, it was like, okay, we just got to get past this game. And then seeing the schedule, we can go on a little 4 to 6 game winning streak here and make things interesting. Well, now you win this game. You all of a sudden become buyers instead of sellers. If you want, I mean, who knows? They might stand pat as well, but I mean, it just going from a possible 2-5 to instead of 3-4 record, and then the schedule eases up a little bit. I mean, who would have thought this offense looked like that without JJ?
No question. Against San Fran of all teams.
Exactly. The thing was, we didn't do a whole lot on the ground, but when we needed to, we gashed them. Like we got big chunk gains on the ground when we needed to run, And that was very impressive to see because we're the only team in the NFL with 0 rushing touchdowns, which is absolutely abysmal. But I mean, I think, and then after this game, I think you got to look at it and be like, yeah, Madison is just not it as the starter. Cam Akers needs to be getting the bulk of the work. He's more explosive, more dynamic. And, Madison, while Dalvin was here, was a good, nice change of pace back, 1-2 combo type back. But he's not built to be a starting running back in the NFL. He's
It's your
not.
Gus Edwards.
Yeah, he's just not. So, and that's no knock on him. I do like Madison, but he's just not a starter. And I think, and obviously you need to see more from Cam Akers to really say he's a true lead back as well. But so I think, if the Vikings were to go out and buy someone, I mean, I'm not going to say that I've heard plenty of the Derrick Henry is, for Baltimore for the Vikings all of a sudden. And it's just like, I don't see that happening. If it does, great. And I don't see a Saquon coming here as well. It just,
You think Henry even fits with you?
listening to like Realistic Randy and stuff today, because he was talking about Derrick Henry, and it's like I told you, he's going to be a strictly 2-down back, and then you have to go to Cam Akers 3rd down and whatnot. But I think the only way he really benefits us because of how piss poor our red zone offense has been would be in the red zone, like down there on the goal line. You're going to hand it to Derrick Henry, and you're going to, because look, that's the way in my eyes he fits with us, because while this game against the Niners was only a 5-point game, 22-17, to me it should have been a lot worse. You came away, you had 1st and goal twice at the 1-yard line in the red zone, came away with 3 points. That's unacceptable. Kevin O'Connell is still way too conservative in the red zone. I mean, and the fact that we don't have the greatest running game, every 1st and 2nd down pretty much in the red zone, down low, it's constant trying to pound it in, and then we're left with a piss poor pass play. And it's just that this is just, that's like the type of stuff Mike Zimmer was doing. And he's got to be more aggressive. Like, fuck it. The way we're carving, the way we can carve people up throughout the middle of the field and longer field distances, it's trust that down low too, because now JJ's hurt obviously, but if you could get him, Addison, and hell, you put KJ out there, just go the spread formation route and make defenses really, be on their toes down there, because what we're doing is no one's scared of us running the ball on them. We've got 0 rushing touchdowns. We're getting hit at the goal line down there, or we're getting hit at the line of scrimmage and behind it so often down in the red zone. It's just like they kind of have our number. So it's just, you got to put it up in the air. And if, it gets picked off, it gets fucking picked off. But we're kind of a team that we live by the pass, we die by the pass. So, and then that's another thing too with Addison, is he should have had 3 touchdowns. Kirk just missed him a little bit on the one to the far left corner of the end zone. And then, I didn't like and then we had another missed opportunity in the middle of the end zone. I don't remember what yard line we're on. We're down low there, and Kirk wanted Alexander Madison to kind of break and settle into his route, and he just kept going, and it was kind of like just this what the fuck type pass.
Miscommunication,
yeah. And that's another thing. I just don't think that's along the lines of what I'm talking about with Madison, is he just doesn't have that total feel for the game as a starting back. He'll do what he'll do what you ask of him when he's in there, but he doesn't have that feel for the game like Dalvin had or those big time backs have. He just doesn't. He is more so of that insurance back for teams. So, but overall, obviously it was a great upset win for us. And look, I think you gotta, while myself included was just dogging and shitting on the Vikings this early part of the season, this is the type of game that really kind of can springboard a team into a true, like, okay, now we can ramp up, get some wins, and make a playoff push. Because the way the NFC set up, I do see this Vikings team, especially proving they can beat a team like the 49ers, especially proving they can take Kansas City, Philly, Chargers to the down to the wire, and arguably should have won a couple of those. That this is one of the better NFC teams. They've been turnover prone more than anyone, bad penalties at the wrong times. It's just, it's just one of those seasons where a team can't get out of their own way. And if they can somehow self-correct that and use this game as a building block, I mean, I don't know, man. They might truly be one of those sneaky teams when they get into the playoffs, because a lot of people will overlook them.
Ooh, we're talking about when we get into the playoffs now. I like it. No, I agree though. The NFC is wide open. I've said since week one, your team isn't as bad as your record shows. So, given the fact that you won 2 in a row and looking at your schedule coming up, you have a good chance to win a legit 7 games in a row, maybe 8 till you get to that Cincinnati game. I mean, if you can do that, you're right in there. You're right in there for that playoff hunt. Probably
Yeah,
almost solidifying your spot by then, because you can't assume everybody else is going to be on a run like that playing for those positions.
right. And if you do go on a run like that and not let, one or two of these games get away from you, because looking at the schedule on paper, these games should be in Vikings' favor going forward. If you are able to go on that run and not lose, I mean, hell, the NFC North title is still up in the air too. So I think,
You're welcome.
so then I think that's what the NFL was hoping for, putting those Detroit and Vikings games, 2 out of the last 3 weeks of the season.
16, 18.
So I mean, it's still a real possibility, but you can't make dumb mistakes, can't turn the ball over. You got to have, and look, I think the unsung hero in all of this is truly Brian Flores. I think the dude is doing a remarkable job with his defense. You don't got a bunch of household names on that backside, but you get, this dude Cameron Bynum is really making a name for himself, in my opinion, back there with Harrison Smith and Josh Metellus. But Jordan Hicks is having one of the best years of his career at middle linebacker. You finally got a little bit of a push from your D line, who are kind of a bunch of no names in Harrison Phillips and Dean Lowry and Jonathan Bullard and whatever. But DJ Wanham stepping up, and then you have, of course, got Daniil Hunter playing out of his mind this year. I don't know that. I just think Brian Flores is really just his overall aggressiveness. That's what we were missing last year with this, and arguably, I think this team overall is a little bit more talented than last year. So, I mean, just imagine if you could have had this type of defense with Brian Flores last year.
Sticking on that, after 7 weeks, what team do you feel better about? Last year's team, or even though your record isn't what probably should be this year's team?
I do feel better about this year's team, but like I said, I know you ride the roller coaster of emotions week to week with these teams, and especially if you're a fan of a certain team that's just not performing to what you expected in the preseason. Like, because this against the 49ers, like that's the team I envisioned going into the season. Being able to really throw the ball on anyone, get a lot of chunk yardage gains. I mean, hell, you finally got TJ Hawkinson to show up and not drop the ball, and he put up 11 for 86. And when he does that, it opens up so much for the other guys, because he's that insurance policy across the middle and those tough yardage, that you need. So this is, and then I knew it would be a rocky start for the defense, and I think they're starting to finally turn that corner and develop a comfortability in this system with B-Flow, and I think that they're finally starting to find their groove a little bit. So that's another thing to watch going forward. Is just that could be a scary underrated unit going forward. So, and that's credit to B-Flow. I really like this guy. A couple weeks ago, I think I said he's probably not going anywhere after this year because of how bad we're just being across the board. But who knows? If we turn this thing around and we have a great year, shoot, he might still get that head coaching opportunity that we've been saying he deserves. So, but overall, I do like this team this year better. I think we got a little bit more depth than last year. I think that I think we're more explosive. And last year it was just we were just sitting back and letting teams pick us apart on defense. That was the frustrating part. I think if you take last year's defense and you add in B-Flow, and I mean, hell, it's just I know that is you can't really talk about it because it's like, well, last year's over and done with, and it will never happen, and it never did happen. So, but I'm just saying, if you had a great year on offense, winning these fucking one-score games and shit, but it's like the defense, you just knew they were going to give something up in the later part of the game and allow these teams to stay in it.
Yeah,
We
go
didn't
watch that Pittsburgh
blitz.
game.
We didn't blitz at all. I mean, and right now we're the number one blitz team in the league. So I don't know. You think about it, it's like, I mean, what if? But
It's literally night and day.
And that's just all the
Yeah,
credit to
but
B-Flow,
what if
man.
though to put that defense with that 11 wins, one score team? You never know what could happen, bro.
No, you never know. But like I said, that but now you have B-Flow. Now you got his defensive system. Now you got the players starting to be comfortable in it, and the communication's getting better each week. Look, I mean, this. Who knows? Who knows what the outcome's going to be at the end of the season with this team? But look, and I think also Ty Chandler needs a little bit more of a role as a running back.
Yeah,
I think what Brandon Powell did on Monday night, he deserves a higher.
he can move a little bit.
He deserves a more of a role.
Week by week, KJ's role is being diminished.
He
And
just
he had a decent game besides the big drop on the sideline yesterday. But
he
you have a lot of playmakers over there.
He's probably the most tradable asset right now on offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's your Nelson Aguilar.
So, and I don't dislike KJ. I think he can do some good things, and he's done great things for us, especially in crunch times a few times. But he just is not. He's not a Jordan Addison. He's not. Look, the way I see our offense as a whole and the way it's built, we need speed. We need a lot of speed. And JJ is by no means like a big speed guy, but I'm not going to call him Randy Moss yet, but the way they run is kind of similar. They got those long strides where they are really fast, and his route running is incredible. And that brings me to my point is I think no one wants to see their number one guy like a Justin Jefferson go down ever. But I think it might have been a blessing in disguise for this team for him to be out a little bit, because then it gets Kirk and everyone else to get on the same page and be like, okay, we got to figure out how this can work without JJ. And that leads you to think like when he comes back, now Kirk's got more options he trusts because he's been out 4 weeks, and we can really get this thing to be dangerous.
Are we thinking 4 weeks still?
Well, I don't know. I'm just 4 to 6, but I'm hoping it's 4 because that would be obviously better than 6.
That win changes a lot. If you lose that game and the next game, you might stay out till week 13 or
Well,
something.
and that's the thing is like you see JJ on the sideline, and he's being a great teammate, and he's hyped up because of what we're doing against the 49ers. And I think a win like that really gets him itching to get back out there with his guys. And so he's probably going to hit rehab the next couple of weeks harder than he's hit it the first 2 weeks. And I don't know. I mean, look, if it's 6 weeks, it's 6 weeks. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is I just think it was probably a blessing in disguise, especially for a guy like Kirk, who's, he's that one read quarterback. He's constantly going to look for JJ no matter what. But what do you do when he's out? Well, now it's gonna get, especially with the game Jordan Addison had. Well, he's a dynamic playmaker in this offense now too. He's just right beneath JJ, and then you get TJ stop dropping the ball, stop having butterfingers, and get back to your old way of doing things. And then you get a guy like Brandon Powell who's starting to not make a name for himself, but turn things up a little bit and be one of those guys that Kirk trusts.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you hang on to KJ, I mean, he's not. I mean, he's not dead. He's not dead yet. So it's like you gotta. I don't know. It's just. I mean, when you bring a guy in like Jordan Addison as a rookie, and he's got 7 touchdowns now or whatever it is, it's like that's right there is just like, okay, I've been saying it for a few weeks now. Is like he needs to be having the role that KJ is having, because KJ is not a number 2 guy. He's that number 3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't know. But Kevin O'Connell, I mean, I think he's a guy that he believes so much in his team that that it kind of hurts him a little bit because he sticks with things longer than he should.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, I still argue that it's been working for the most part. You, as a fan, you're obviously looking at it through a different lens. You see the goal line situations where you're not converting, where you're not scoring. So, I mean, yeah, I see the same things with Baltimore that you probably wouldn't see, but I understand. I mean, you always want a perfect game, knowing that it's
Yeah.
not going to happen, but you would like to lessen up the mistakes that you have and the miscues that you have. So, very
No, but
understandable.
and that's what, I mean, that's why I say, like, to me this win should have not been a 5-point game. It should have been a 2-touchdown game. That's how well we played, and that's how much I think we beat them. Is
When you watch the game and look at the stat sheet, I mean, Addison's coming out party. Camp Bynum's coming out party. Hawkinson took care of the ball around 90 yards. I mean, the story is Kirk Cousins, though. But like you're
yeah,
saying, you should have won a game by more when you look at all that. Brock Purdy struggled. The defense was phenomenal. What was it, 17 points you said? I mean, holding that team to 17 points is, I don't care if Debo and Trent Williams is out. That's impressive. So,
no, well, it is, because look, you still got Kyle Shanahan calling the plays, and he's one of the best play callers in the league, and he trusts his guy in Brock Purdy. Now, I think on their side of things, like
they got exposed, especially at that defensive secondary. Because, like I
yeah, I
said, Kirk
think,
was a story coming away. We know his
yeah,
prime time history. For him, he looked like, we'll talk about, JJ put that top 10 on him. We'll talk about our top 10 a little bit later. He looked like it for sure.
like, hey, but then you get, we've kind of been. I haven't been as high on. I mean, I don't think you have either been that high on Brock Purdy. I don't. I mean, he's just been a great game manager
He's just
where
not making mistakes. I
yeah,
love that.
exactly. And he's been riding that win streak since he came into the league, and feel good story and whatever you want to call it. But he's a guy that does need to be surrounded by a bunch of playmakers, like having Debo out there, having Trent Williams block his back, his blind side, and have Christian McCaffrey out there and Brandon. He needs all of his weapons on full display.
He does.
And
I said that about Dak last year. As soon as one of those weapons goes down, he's mid-tier, mediocre.
yeah,
Brock Purdy looked the same last night.
yep, and he did. I think that for me is like, I think when you watch that game back from Monday night, I don't think anyone fears San Fran anymore.
You would have thought, bro, that was the game they were going to put it together after that slip up in week 6 against a team who's, we don't know what direction they're going to go at 2-5 or whatever your record was. For them to come out and lay an egg like that, I can't say that the league is on notice about San Fran anymore. I
No,
can't,
and
I can't
but
say I feel the same way after the first 5 weeks.
it's funny because just 3 weeks ago or whatever it was, I mean, they beat Dallas 42-10. I mean, and that's the type of game I was expecting against us, like we're
Right?
gonna get absolutely demolished, and they're gonna come in here and do what Dallas did to us last year and make us look like fools. And
Hey, man, arrows are pointing up for you. You played well against the 2 best teams in the NFC. Arguably
well,
should have
and
won both of those games. So,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying the past couple of days since this game took place. Was you look at the beginning part of our schedule this year, we've really had to battle some good teams, and good quarterbacks. So for these games to be one score, and arguably you could say arguably we should have a winning record. That's kind of because that right there leads me to say, yeah, this team is better than last year's team, because I don't think last year's team only loses to Kansas City by 7 points. I think we lose by more. I think last year's team actually loses pretty handily to the 49ers, especially with JJ out.
oh, yeah.
I think last year we probably lose pretty handily to the Chargers. Not saying, I mean, they got their own issues, but they still got Herbert. They still got a loaded roster. But I mean, and then we did get our butts whooped by Philly last year. So,
Mm-hmm.
and this year, we got down pretty good early on, but we battled back and only lost by 6 points. So, it's you look at it,
And JJ
this
fumbled out
team.
the end zone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, that was a turning point right there. I think if you go into halftime with that touchdown right there, and we have a little bit of a lead, who knows what happens? But I do think that I do like this team better. It's just been frustrating as hell because you're fumbling so much. You're, bad turnovers, bad penalties, and just, I don't know, questionable coaching, you could say, I guess. But look, I can't be too down anymore because when you come out and you beat a team like the 49ers, who are arguably, fucking Goliath, it's like you got to be happy. There's nothing you can really complain about when you get a game like that.
Right. You can't. Are you good on this one? Can we move on to the next?
Yeah, I'm good.
So Sunday night football, obviously Vikings against San Fran. The way it's looking now, a potential NFC Championship matchup. At least we're thinking that's two contenders at this point. We have Miami and Philly, two contenders, a potential Super Bowl matchup. Both teams came into the game 5-1. Although they do some of the same things, I do think they play with different styles. You picked Miami. I think that's more that Oregon Duck in you, like in that pretty boy football. You know me, baby. I'm all SEC all day. So I took Philly. Coming into the game, all the talk was about the pretty weapons on the outside: Tyreek Hill, Eric Waddle, Jalen Waddle. I do that every single time. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. This. You know the players out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But, as we've been saying throughout the season, man, the best teams are built from the inside out. And I think that's where this game was won. Philadelphia was able to stay in Tua's lap. They were able to keep Jalen Hurts clean for the most part. And they won this game by 2 touchdowns pretty convincingly. What did you think about this Philadelphia game against Miami?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think right now, especially the way things ended Monday night for the 49ers, is I think NFC is the Eagles to lose. I think they're the best team in the NFC. But I think because you see games like that they had against the Jets and stuff, they're still beatable. You just got to really punch them back in the mouth when they're punching you in the mouth. Jalen Hurts is still kind of turnover prone this year. He's not the same guy as last year by any means, but look, you just can't let them get down to the goddamn 1 yard line because it's an automatic score.
Brotherly shove, the best play in fantasy.
Like, man, that is just unstoppable, bro. And God, and then I laughed because Monday night the fucking Vikings tried that shit, and I was like, "What are you doing? We don't have that type of offensive
I guess the
line."
best middle linebacker in the league who sniffed that out. But
Oh, just jumps right over the center and knocks Kirk Cousins block off, man. But look, I think Miami is still a great team, but they do have their issues. I think if you can just tame them a little bit on the outside, I mean, look, Tua is not a guy who's really going to go out there and beat you with his legs. He's looking to pass the ball, and for me, it's just there's not a and then Philly goes out and gets Kevin Byard, and it's
every other week they're doing this shit. It's amazing.
they really, and like I said,
Respect.
they're adding on to what they're running it back with from last year's team, and I truly think that they know this is probably. I'm not saying it's the last year, but it's one of those. They're kind of right in the back end of that window with some of these guys on that roster where they're trying to get that championship.
Yep, it's a
So
2-year window.
they're really trying to get it done. And I think they have a great opportunity to repeat as NFC champions. But it's still a tall task. Only going into week 8 of the season, and this game, it just I think there was a one too many mistakes from Miami that allowed them to be in this game till the end. And you can't do that against a team like Philly because they truly take advantage of missed opportunities by the other team.
Kansas City had a big win this weekend. You said some of your questions were answered about their offense. Do you think the Super Bowl hangover questions have been answered about Philadelphia?
Oh, look, I don't think there's a hangover, man. Not with this team. I mean, I think they're like I said. I said early in the season when there was starting to be questions about. I think it was right after the Vikings game against them where AJ and Jalen were kind of like on the sidelines, not feuding, but AJ was like, "Come on, throw me the damn ball," and just kind of that's more so to me. It's like kind of like a disagreement with your brother is just kind of
Yeah,
like we're trying to work this shit out. And I said that as the season goes on, this team's only going to get better and start to resemble themselves as they were last year, and that's what's happening. I mean, to me they still got the best O line in football. DeAndre
the best
Swift's
O
having
line.
one of the
Yep.
best years of his career, and he's benefiting from that O line. Jalen Hurts, majority of the time he doesn't make mistakes. When they do have crappy games, he's probably throwing a couple interceptions. Um, but you still got Devontae Smith, who's turning into a wide receiver one. You got AJ Brown, who is a wide receiver one. You just fucking threw in Julio Jones, who's got a little bit left to prove and wants a championship. You add in Kevin Byard on the back end of that defense, where they desperately needed safety help, in my opinion, because they're a little banged up in the secondary. But you still got big play Slay. I mean, this team is they're just loaded. When you look at it on paper, they're just absolutely loaded. And like I said, you can't. You're it's I mean, you're probably never gonna win unless you have an immaculate season like that '07 Patriots team. It's hard. It's so fucking hard to be undefeated in the NFL. So you're gonna have a few of those weeks where you're just like chalk it up to a bad week, and we get back to the drawing board. I mean,
Yeah.
just because some of these elite teams will lose 3, 4, 5 games, that doesn't mean shit.
No, it doesn't. And I think with what Philadelphia is doing, they have probably become the most deep team in the league with some of these pickups over the last few weeks. They're just making strength stronger. And like you said, with that defensive secondary, they're making weaknesses an average. They're making them average. So I can't do anything but respect what Philadelphia is doing right now. They are probably my favorites in the NFC. If they do go ahead and play San Francisco at some point in the season, which they will, my eyes will be locked in on that game because that's going to give us a lot of answers to questions that we have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes you wonder now after the 49ers have had a couple down weeks and especially that loss to the Vikings. It makes you wonder, like, would that game last year been any different if Brock Purdy stayed in
I think it would have.
it?
And we're going to see that. I mean, supposedly he's in concussion protocol. He might miss this week. Sam Darnold will get the nod. So we'll see how they look with Sam Darnold, but they didn't
Yeah,
look great these past couple weeks for Brock Purdy. So I don't know. Some people are putting him in that top 10 conversation. I say he's more of a middle of the pack quarterback. I think Hurts and
Brock
Tua.
Purdy.
Yeah.
Brock
Hurts and
Purdy.
Tua are two guys that could be in that conversation. But go ahead with your Brock Purdy point.
No, I was saying Brock Purdy is definitely one of those middle of the pack guys. I mean, he's a souped up Garoppolo in a sense. You know, he's just one of those. I mean, he's not gonna break records. He's not gonna light it up. He's going to get you wins as best as he can. And I mean, when he's paired up with a coach like Kyle Shanahan, who's one of the best play callers in the NFL, and he's got the playmakers around him, most times than not, he's going to look good.
Hard not to with that
You
supporting
know,
cast and that coaching staff.
but I think it's guys like him and maybe even Jared Goff a little bit, where it's like once you start to face teams with who send a little bit more pressure than majority of the teams do, you run into some issues.
Yeah, I agree. Back on this Philly Miami game quick before we move to our next segment. Just overall impressive win for Philly. We know what this Miami offense can possess. To hold them to 17 points, very impressive. We know what Philly likes to do on offense. They base everything off their run game. And now A.J. Brown has 5 games of 125, I think, in a row, which is an all-time record tied with, I don't know, probably Jerry Rice. I don't know who he's tied with, but, I mean, Jalen Hurts, despite the turnovers, he knows where his bread is buttered. It's in that
Yep.
run game, and it's passing that ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, some elite receivers. So I don't like the turnovers from Jalen Hurts. That is a little bit worrisome because against these better teams, you're not going to be able to afford that. But as of now, I think Philadelphia is still figuring it out, and they're honestly looking better and better each week.
They are. I mean, they start. I mean, it's funny because a lot of teams tend to. I mean, not a lot of teams, but a good amount of teams will tend to start the season off slow and hit their stride come middle to the middle of the season. So the for me the goal a lot of times the goal in the start of the season is we just got to win a little bit more than we lose, because I think if once you hit like a Panthers type thing where it's 0-6, then it's kind of like, okay, well, we're fucked. But if you're around that 500 mark in the first 4 or 5 weeks, well, then you can still gel together and build off of it and hit a stride, and then you make a run. So,
Yep.
I mean, look, I think what the Lions start last year, like 1-6, and then they ended up 9-7 or some shit.
Was it that bad? I don't know.
It was something along those lines where they were like, you were like, God damn, this Lions team was supposed to be good, and then now they're shit again. But I want to just double check that. You can hold on. I know I'm taking up a little time looking this up, but
Yeah, you can. I don't even know how you're going to find that unless you go through the schedule last year. But yeah, some teams they just start slow for whatever reason. This Philly team, it is a little surprising that they did start slow, given that they brought back a lot of the same players and whatnot. I did say they have a 2-year window, but some of the players that they replaced or that they're going to be replacing these veterans with, they're really showing their ass right now. These Jordan
yeah,
Davises, these Jalen Carters. So that defensive line, I think, will be in good hands. And you know, that's how this Philly team has been building their team the past few years from the inside out. But
yep.
how you
So
looking at on that schedule over there?
so there's 1, 2, 3,
This was a
4.
fun game, though. Even though the score isn't what we wanted, there was a lot of storylines going into this one.
So yeah,
Who's
Lions started last year 1-6 and ended up 9-8.
That's impressive.
So that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes that shit happens, and you barely miss the playoffs, or you're able to squeak in and make a run, or whatever. But so that's the biggest thing, is doing your best to not let the early part of the season let it get away from you. Because when you do that, then it's kind of like, well, now it's either tank or we're fighting for a draft pick selection, and I don't know. So but yeah,
Even
for
that's
me,
weird because New England, Chicago, and Denver all won last week, and you would think at 1-4 or 1-5, these are teams that would want to tank and get that top 5 position in the draft. So
but
that's a little
that's why for me, I am not a proponent or a fan of tanking, because this is, look, these are professionals. They make millions of dollars. You should do everything you can to scratch and claw your way back to getting into the playoffs. That's what this is all about. I'm not a fan of this to be like, oh yeah, the Bears, yeah, you're 1-4 now, yeah, go ahead, tank. I know I want to have those weeks later in the season where it's like, oh shit, the Bears just snuck a win from
the
Detroit
Rams
or the
or some
Rams.
shit. Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what makes it fun.
I agree. Um, we don't have to go off in a tangent, but some of the fun has been taken out. Some of the violence, to an extent, has been taken out. The league has become
Right.
different from the league that we grew up with, to say the least. So it's a little adjustment period when you're watching these games as well.
Yep.
So a little list we're going to give you guys right now. Something we're trying to do weekly as a new little segment on these picks episodes. We have our top 10 quarterbacks list. Most of this is stemming from Kirk Cousins' performance. We know about his primetime resume. We know about him playing against high quality opponents, and he might have silenced some critics this past week, dominated the San Francisco 49ers. So if you want to start from one, and I don't know if you want to alternate, if you just want
Let's
to go
go ahead.
straight through your team.
Let's go ahead and alternate. We can go through
Okay,
these quick or whatever,
let's
but
start at two because we know who one is. It's
yeah,
15.
Mahomes is in a league of his own, so
Who you got at two so far this season is how we're ranking them.
Lamar Jackson.
Oh my nigga, me too. LJ number 8. I got him at number 2. And I think the last time we did this list, it was an overall ranking. I think we both had Lamar like number 8 as an overall quarterback. So a little bit of a jump for my guy.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it might not look like it to this point, but he's quietly having probably the best year of his career right now.
He's having an MVP year.
You know, um,
Player of the week last week, even though
yeah.
Mahomes
I
did what he
mean,
did.
look, if you don't have, I mean, and then if you don't have those fucking all those drops against the Steelers, you win that game too. So
Yep. Last week I said Mahomes and Jackson are the two most entertaining quarterbacks or something
they're the
along
most
those lines.
electrifying for sure.
They might be the two best as well.
Yeah, but when you talk about just electrifying playmakers, like those two are what you would want in a player.
No question. 3?
3 for me, I gotta go Jalen Hurts.
Oh my goodness. All right. Me too. I was hoping it wouldn't be like this, but it's like this so far. I should have guessed. 4? Or do you
This
want to
one might
explain?
surprise you. This one might surprise you, but it's just based off of this year alone and what he's doing and that offense they run. I gotta go Tua. I'm not happy about it, but I gotta go Tua.
Okay, give me your 5th then.
My 5th is actually Matt Stafford.
Ooh. Okay, well I have Tua at 5. I'm not gonna get to my 4 yet until you name him. Who's your 6?
Josh Allen.
Same. 7.
Justin Herbert.
Same. 8.
Kirk Cousins.
Okay, I got Kirk at 4.
Okay. Well, you can and I wanted to put him higher, but I'm going off of this based on look, we got a losing record right now. You know, for me to be higher in the top 10 list, you want to have more of a winning record. You want to beat quality opponents. And I
For
mean,
sure.
the Niners game could, springboard him to that number 4 spot this season. Look, he's leading the league in touchdown passes. He's second behind Tua in yards. To me, I could throw him in the top 5 easily.
Yeah.
But I'm still holding on to the Kirk Cousins I also know. So
probably could have put Tua ahead of him just because he's on pace for 6,000 yards or something crazy like that.
yeah.
A lot of that is the talent around him.
And then I rounded it out by going Trevor Lawrence 9, and my guy CJ Stroud 10.
CJ Stroud at the 10 spot. Okay, so mine is Mahomes, Jackson, Hurts, Cousins, Tua, Allen, Herbert, Trevor, and I'm kind of debating these last two. I have Matt Stafford in there, and then my Aaron Rodgers replacement for the 10 spot. I honestly can say I didn't even give CJ a thought, but
It's just based on look. I think
that's a great pick.
CJ Stroud to me is proven so much and so little, and the way he's carrying that team and that offense, he's barely made mistakes with the ball. I mean, he's right there in top 5, top 6 yardage numbers. Like the dude, to me, and this is like I said, this is based on this season. So I can't sit here and say CJ Stroud's my number 10 quarterback overall in the league. But based on this part of the season and where we're at, he's got to be my number 10 guy. I think he deserves that credit right now. And
I'm not mad at it.
And I got to go. And look, I mean, yeah, you can argue, okay, well, maybe Dak Prescott, but I mean,
yeah, I got Stafford 9, and my 10 is between Jared Goff and Joe Burrow right now.
And I put Matt Stafford at 5 because I think the Rams are kind of so this year, but what he was able to do without Cooper Kupp in there and making a name for Puka and all that, like, and he's still
they weren't empty stats either, which is more impressive.
Yeah, so. And I still think Matt Stafford is one of those top 10 guys overall, honestly.
Mm-hmm. We had him around 9 in our list last time we did it, so pretty consistent on that still. He's still a top 10 guy in my estimation. I am probably just going to go Jared Goff at number 10 over Joe Burrow right now just because of that injury slowed him down to start the season. But
and that's the thing. Like when I texted you
the past 2 weeks, Joe Burrow's going to be in there.
Well, when I texted you, I had to drop him from my list because I was like, of course Burrow's in top 10. But at this point in the season, what we've seen so far, number wise, you can't put him in there right now because of that injury that's really hindered him up until this point. But I think, it's possible by the end of this year, he is back in that top 10 spot. So
something else I thought we could have did this week, which would have been fun, even though JJ was out, we could have did top 5 duos or something because we had AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts playing against Tua and Tyreek. And then, obviously there's some good duos out there, but I like this quarterbacks list for what Kirk Cousins put on Monday
Yeah.
night.
Well, and that's I think that was one of the first things I texted you. I was like, do we put Kirk Cousins top 10 now? Is he, I mean, because look, I think even before the 49ers game, you could argue he was top 10, top 5 maybe because of the numbers he had. But it's still Kirk Cousins. It's always going to
It
be
is.
hard. It's because, you look at the primetime record, you look at the record
But what
against,
comes with this always Kirk Cousins? We all know what that means. The primetime record, the clutch moments. What has Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, any of
right?
these guys showing you in those same moments? So Cousins at least has been doing this for 6 years. You know what
And
I mean?
not to mention, our number 2 quarterback in Lamar Jackson has the same playoff record as Kirk Cousins.
Is that a shot or
I'm
is
not
that
taking a shot at Lamar. I'm just saying it's just people can nitpick at Kirk all they want, but I do think when it comes down to a whole season, Kirk's a baller. Like Kirk is a very good quarterback. He just doesn't he just rubs people the wrong way because he doesn't have that outward personality that some may like to see a quarterback have, or that dog in him or whatever. He doesn't swear. He's one of those nerdy type dads like that, and I think that is such an easy thing to pick on him for. And because he has the primetime record that he does, because he has those not so clutch moments, he's one of those scapegoats where it's like, hell no, I'm never putting Kirk in my top 10.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? He's one of those average Joes, like, which is fair. I get it. I get the criticism, but for what he's done, I predicted before the season he was going to have probably the best year of his career so far. It's hard to argue that right now.
Yeah. It ain't his fault. Motherfuckers can't hold on to the football. I mean, he has his fair share in those turnovers, but
And he has not been anywhere close to being the reason we've lost these games this year.
no, when that typically isn't the case. So I agree with that. I think Kirk deserves a top 10 spot for sure. 4 could be high for me, but I even could see that he could be 5 behind Tua, but I like what Kirk's doing this year. Your record is not on his shoulders right now. I've only seen this like twice, so I mean, it's not on him. Week 8 picks. Do you have our records on hand? Or you want me to
I
get into
do.
these real
I
quick?
do. I shit the bed this week, bro. I shit the bed, man. It was a rough week for me, but I'll take it with that kind of Vikings win. You know what I mean? So,
Hey, you can't win them all.
this week for picks, you were 7-6, and I ended up being 4-9. So you did make that comeback. So now on the season, we both are tied 62 and 43 on
Yes,
picks.
sir. I love it. We're almost halfway through. That was a nice little drive with about 5 minutes left in the second quarter. Tied up before halftime. We get the ball second half. You know what we came here to do. Week 8 picks. Thursday night football. We have the Buccaneers at 3-3 on the road at the struggling Buffalo Bills at 4-3. What do you think about this one here?
For me, I mean, to me, this is still an easy pick. I gotta go Buffalo. I think
It has to be a
um,
bounce back.
it's a bounce back game here for sure. And Tampa Bay, the egg they laid against a team like the Atlanta Falcons is unacceptable to me. And it's just like they gotta prove to me that I can trust them a little bit again. So,
I agree.
I just don't see that happening against a team like the Bills. I think the Bills are still far too talented. They're just one of those kind of, you got to ride the roller coaster with them right now.
I think the Bills should have no problem with the Bucks, but I can also see the Bills playing down to their competition. It's 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter at 17-13, and we can't get any offense going because we gave the Bucks momentum and confidence in this game.
Yep.
So I don't expect it to go that way. I do think Buffalo will win this by about double digits, but they're just not high on my trust list right now. Houston at 3-3 on the road at Carolina 0-6. Probably should be an easy pick, but Houston is a very young team. I'm just hoping they're not going in here underestimating Carolina at 0-6. They do have a young quarterback, a young coach. I do think they're better. Carolina, I don't think they're as bad as their record shows, but they are not a good team. I do have Houston in this game, but probably not the blowout some people might expect.
No, this is going to be a fun matchup just because it's the first two quarterbacks off the board going up against each other. And I think I really like this CJ Stroud led Houston Texans team with DeMeco Ryans at head coach. I'm actually, even though it's not going to be like a great overall year for them, they're going to be kind of middling type team, but with ups and downs. But I'm very excited for their future. I'm excited for this team to see where it goes, and how good they can be in a short period of time, whether it be 1 or 2 years. So I got Houston in this game. It's just, while I like some of the things Carolina does, I think it could be a long day for them just because they don't have the greatest protection up front, and D'Amico is doing such good things with that defense, and then you got to deal with Will Anderson Jr. It could be a long day for Bryce Young.
I think it will be. He's been getting better. He's really up and down though, as opposed to CJ's steady trajectory up. So Carolina is just kind of like we've been saying, in the middle of nowhere. Don't have their first round pick. Probably going to be 0-7 after this week. It's really tough. LA Rams at 3-4 on the road at Dallas 4-2. Dallas coming off a bye. The Rams have been one of the more feisty teams in the league. 3-4 does not look as bad when I look at some of these other 3-4 teams out there. Dallas is not trustworthy, man. I think Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, Puga now, Cooper Cup, running
Yeah.
back had a little bit of an emergence last week. It's not going to be enough. I got Dallas.
No, it's not going to be enough. I got Dallas as well, especially because to me Dallas plays so well at home. I think your best bet to catch them in a bad week is on the road most times. While I don't think this is going to be a blowout, I mean it could be. It could be, but you just don't know what Dallas team you're going to get. That's the scary part.
See, yeah, you don't know who's going to blow who out, honestly, in my opinion, because
So
you don't
for
know which Dallas team you're going to get.
So for me, I got Dallas in this one, but I like to think that this game is going to be more of a little bit of a dogfight, and I mean, I sure do trust McVay a little more than Mike McCarthy.
Do you think we're going to get 300-yard, 2-touchdown Dak or 198-yard, 3-interception Dak?
I'm
If
gonna
you get
say
no
he
number.
throws. I'm gonna go. He throws 264, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick, and they get by with like a 24-17 win.
Yeah, that's about all I can put on Dak these days. I feel like I used to have more confidence in him. But right now, him and McCarthy, that combination, they're just not selling me week in and week out. They're going to have to put together 4 or 5 weeks of 28, 30 plus before I get back on train, before I get back
No,
on
and
board.
I definitely think they're missing Trey Diggs big time back there on
For sure.
defense. I mean, but and I think it's just, for me, it's like Dallas has been so self-proclaimed as a great team because you hit on Micah Parsons, and he's like this big thing
Godsend.
up and coming, and he's a great player, and he's gonna be a Hall of Famer probably if he keeps it up. But it's like they've just been self-proclaimed this great team since he's gotten there because he's like a savior. And you still got Dak. You don't have Zeke anymore for short goal line touchdowns. You got Tony Pollard, who's more of a change of pace back.
Mm-hmm.
You got CeeDee Lamb, who's not a number one receiver.
Nope.
So
Not a good one.
and besides Mike, if you take Micah out of that defense, I'm a little iffy still.
Yeah, for sure. He makes that whole thing go. Without him, it's a pretty average unit over there, but he just demands so much pressure and so much attention that some of those guys just get free. I mean, you know how it goes. He's a top 5 defender, no question
Oh,
about
he's
it
a
in
real
this
deal
league.
for
He's
sure.
a
But
monster.
and then you think about it, it's like if he does have a down game, which he's going to at points, this team can't get going.
Yeah, they can't really pick up his slack, especially with that Trey Diggs injury. You lost an
Yeah.
elite player in the backfield, so it's really all on his shoulders right now because that was one
Yep.
of the better duos in the league, and now it's not a duo anymore. So Dallas definitely hasn't looked the same since that injury. I will say
No.
that. You got the Vikings at 3-4 on the road at Green Bay 2-4. How we feeling?
Look, I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself. I think, because it's the Packers and we've had their history there, it's still a little nerve-wracking, but after this is what worries me. You have the game you do on Monday night against the 49ers, but then you end up being the Vikings still because you go lay an egg in Green Bay against this fucking Jordan Love led team.
Mm-hmm.
If you do if you do that, then I'm back off the Vikings.
Fair enough, bro.
But no, I truly think because of the way this team is built, especially with B Flow running the defense, I don't think they let that happen. I think that we take this as an opportunity to build off of this 49ers game. And the way the Packers have been playing, they put up 0 points in the first half against the worst team, the worst defense in the league, in the Broncos. Please, for the love of God, even without JJ, go into Green Bay and at least
Dominated.
beat this team by 17 points.
You have to. Green Bay's going downhill. While all your arrows are pointing up, you have to dominate this team.
So
New
I got the Vikings.
Orleans, yeah, me too. And probably along with that Bills game, double digits. New Orleans at Indianapolis, both teams 3-4. You know where
Indy.
I'm going. Yep, Gardner Minshew over Derek Carr every day of the week. New England at 2-5 on the road at Miami 5-2. New England gives Miami some troubles. I will say that. Don't be fooled by the records.
I just think with
Pay
that,
attention to what your eyes have shown you this year. I have Miami over New England in this one.
yeah, I just think the way they lost in Philly, they're gonna have a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth. And this is a division game. We want to get back on track and prove that they're still the Miami Dolphins that we've seen all year. Yeah, I got to go Miami.
Yeah, not as confident as I would be because just the opponent. New England usually plays Miami pretty well, but Miami should handle them. Jets at the Giants, Battle of New York, 3-3 on the road at 2-5. I do have the Jets continuing their little hot streak that they have going on against the Giants, even though I do like what the Giants are doing with this quarterback situation here.
I think if this Giants defense can keep doing what been doing the past couple weeks, especially last week against Washington, they're starting to trend upward as what we've expected from them. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they can give this Jets team a lot of fits and make this a very close down to the wire game. But I got the Jets. I can't get myself to pick the Giants.
This
I
one,
don't.
this one is tough.
This is to me right now. It could go either way, but I'll pick the Jets defense over the Giants defense any day of the week right now.
Right now, yeah, even though the Giants are coming around, the Jets have maybe had a couple of down weeks, but they look like one of the more elite units in the league right now. This one's tough too. Jacksonville at 5-2 on the road at Pittsburgh 4-2. Pittsburgh plays well at home. They know how to keep these games close. Jacksonville is a team who has been playing well over these past 3 weeks, but I don't know if they have the foot on your throat mentality. I don't know if they can close you out. I don't know how clutch they're going to be down the stretch in this close game against Pittsburgh. Whereas Kenny Pickett, this is where he seems to shine. If it's a one-score game under 8 minutes, you count on Pittsburgh to win this one. The defense has been down a little bit, though. I think Jacksonville is going to improve to 6-2.
This is tough. I would like to pick Pittsburgh, but how can you pick Pickett over Lawrence?
Last year, I would have more confidence doing that because Lawrence was way more inconsistent. But as of late, he's been a lot better, and he's
I
probably
just think,
catapulted into that top 10 conversation like we had him in.
yeah. And I think this Jacksonville team just keeps getting a little bit like 1% better each week. I just think that they're kind of more so on that upswing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're a team who's really gonna hit their stride when it's the right when you need it. So
It's
I
looking that way.
I
They're
got
putting some nice
Jacksonville in
things
this
together.
one. But because it's also at Pittsburgh, it's gonna be one of those tough games.
Atlanta at 4-3, at Tennessee 2-4. This is going to be another hard-fought game. That's going to come down to another fourth quarter possession right at the end here. Two teams that love to run the ball. Two teams that really can't pass the ball because the quarterbacks are limited. So whose running game is going to be better? Are we picking Bijan, Cordero Patterson, and Algier? Are we picking Tajay Spears and Derrick Henry? I do think Atlanta's defense is good enough to nullify some of that offensive weapons that Tennessee has. So I am going to pick the Falcons in this one.
Good, because I'm picking Tennessee in this one. I
Mm-mm.
don't trust anything the Falcons do, especially with Ritter at quarterback. And I mean, after last week seeing Arthur Smith only give the ball once to Bijan, that kind of was weird and I just didn't understand that. Um, but I do think they're finally kind of starting to grasp that they need to get Kyle Pitts the ball a little more, which they're trying to do. They got Drake London. Their defense is
Crazy
under.
behind the back catch last week.
Yeah, that was insane. But their defense is underrated for sure. I just can't trust them, and I'm not saying I trust Tennessee anymore, but Tennessee's at home. Atlanta for me as an outdoor team, not it.
For
And
sure.
um, I think Tennessee's built to definitely wear this Atlanta team down and come away with a 3-point win.
You know, as good as Atlanta's defense has been, I definitely saw some bad signs against Tampa Bay. AJ Terrell was getting burned like toast. And Tennessee definitely has the coaching and the personnel to make it very tough on the offense, especially given Desmond Ritter is limited in his skill set. Atlanta's going to be in for a tough game. I could have easily picked Tennessee. I'm glad you did, though, because this one could honestly go either way. Philadelphia at 6-1, at Washington 3-4. The Commanders usually play Philadelphia pretty tight.
Yeah.
So again, a divisional game. You don't really want to pay attention to the records that much, but you don't necessarily want to throw them out the window as well. Philadelphia, obviously a way better team, but Washington can present some problems with their defensive front. They can get after Jalen Hurts a little bit, who doesn't seem like he wants to run the ball anymore. He almost takes 2 steps and falls down like he's Tua or Peyton Manning or something. So if Washington can put pressure on Jalen Hurts, I do like some of the pieces in their defensive secondary. It just really comes down to Sam Howell. 1 week, him and Desmond Ritter are probably the two most inconsistent quarterbacks right now, and I just can't bank on that. So I got to go Philly.
I'm going Philly here too. Look, I just based on the last few weeks, based on the last few weeks since they played last, um, Washington's just looked worse and worse. You know, they bring Philly to overtime the first time they play them, almost come away with it, but they can't get anything going in the overtime. But ever since then, they've just gone downhill, and
They've had one good game since then.
it's looked bad. So I got Philly in this one, and I think that Philly is gonna make this one. I'm not gonna say they're gonna run away with it, but I think they're not gonna have to rely on overtime to get the win.
Washington, Jacoby Brissett is on your team. I think after you lose this game, he will be your quarterback. Cleveland at 4-2 on the road at Seattle 4-2. Maybe they have some parlors out there for Deshaun, ease his mind a little bit. He'll be able to play for this game. But if not, I am going to go Cleveland either way. I think this defense is going to be a little bit too much for Seattle to handle. I do like Geno, what he's been doing this year. Probably not the top 10 quarterback that we were seeing last year. And I think Cleveland there's going to be too much for Seattle up front specifically.
While I can't argue that, I am going Seattle here because I think look, they're bringing Frank Clark back home, baby. So you get a little juice on that defensive side,
Hey,
and
no question.
um, so but with Deshaun out, not saying he's been playing the greatest, but I just and I'm not trying to dog PJ Walker or anything either, but I just think that I
But
just I like Seattle at home a lot. I think they play very well at home.
they do. It isn't the 12th man that we're used to, but that crowd is still live. And those guys do perform better at home as most teams do, but I do think they have a little bit more of an advantage for whatever reason. I just think Cleveland is going to be too good up front defensively for Seattle.
That's I'm that is true because Cleveland has a great defense this year, and I can't argue this Cleveland pick. So, but I just trying to find ways to be a little different on these picks too. So
No, I understand. So there's been a theme going around this year that the team the previous week who had the biggest win or biggest upset, biggest performance goes the following week and lays an egg. So You're obviously in contention for that against Green Bay. Definitely shouldn't have any problems with them. We're also in contention for that playing against Arizona. Arizona, one of the more feisty teams in the league. Baltimore at 5-2, traveling to the Cardinals at 1-6. You know, if there's a trap game, this is it. Because we both looked at our schedule. You guys could win 7 in a row. We could lose 7 in a row. That's how tough our schedule is. And I think Baltimore might look a little past this Arizona team. We'll get the win, but it won't be in dominant fashion like we'd hope.
I don't care one way or the other. I got Baltimore.
Long story short, I like it. KC at Denver. I'll do the same thing here. 6-1 beats 2-5 every time in this matchup.
There's no way in hell Denver has a shot against Kansas City.
They play well against Kansas City for whatever reason, but there's no way Russell Wilson is outdueling Patrick Mahomes.
Look, you know what? I've been saying since last year, even like this Kansas City defense is kind of like the Vikings, you know, got some holes and a little leaky on the back end. This year, they're really not. This defense is very underrated. They're legit, bro.
No, they are.
They are good.
And that's what makes them scary because the offense is going to be, whatever we think about it right now, they're coming along slow or whatever, they're going to be fine. And if you compare that with the best defense Mahomes has ever had, this is not fair. This is not fair. Cincinnati at 3-3 on the road at San Fran 5-2. Purdy might be out and Darnold might be in. Will that change your pick at all?
No, I think San Fran's going to have a bounce back here after 2 porous weeks. I think more so than anything, it doesn't really matter who's going to start at quarterback. This defense is going to be out for blood.
I got the Bengals. Keep it different a little bit.
All right.
I don't think there's much of a difference between Darnold and Purdy, especially with the system that they run, the positions that Shanahan puts them in. Darnold's more than capable of going 20 or 28 for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. I could see that happening, but Joe Burrow coming off a bye week, he looked a little bit healthier those 2 weeks prior. Maybe he got a little bit more rest. Maybe he looks even better. Him and Jamar Chase, they're obviously in that conversation, the best duo. Let's see what they can do against this San Francisco secondary that was for sure exposed against the Minnesota Vikings. Chicago at 2-5, at the Chargers 2-4. If Brandon Staley's still there, I swear to God, I'm picking the Chicago Bears.
No, he's there, but they're talking like he's in the hottest of hot seats, bro. Like he is. This is going to be his last year here in LA. Like
I got Chicago.
I'm going to LA, bro. I can't do that.
This is going to win or lose me the week right there. Anything else on week 8 before we get out of here? Last week, 6 teams on bye. This week, everybody's playing. So it's going to be hard to watch all these games, but
we still got one more pick. We still got one more pick.
Oh, excuse me. Who is it?
Raiders, Lions.
So like I said, that's it for week 8. Do you have anything else? Because we can definitely get out of here.
Yeah, we already know who we got in that game. So, oh, man, look. All I can say about week 8 is just please God, for the love of God, Vikings do not do Vikings things and go to Lambeau and lay an egg because this is the worst Green Bay has been in how long?
You can't show your face after that, after all the shit you were talking.
Look, I don't think it should happen, but you can't put it past this type of fucking team. It's just they do idiotic shit.
Yeah, that's what they do. They play down to their comp every time.
So, I mean, look, and before the 49ers game, we barely got out of Chicago with a W. So,
barely.
But I'm just saying, if you're gonna really turn your season around, and make a statement, I think that you got to win by a couple touchdowns in Green Bay.
I agree. No reason for it not to happen either. We good on this? We both have Detroit over the Raiders.
Yep.
Week 8 picks in the books. We appreciate y'all. Peace.